Gospel Fire, Tim Leslie. How are you?
I'm good, Professor. How are you?
Don't call me Professor.
I swear to God, up to this moment, I thought that was your first name.
Tim, you are first here, buddy.
Thanks.
You are the first one. We got recording over there on video.
Oh
no, I got it tilted. Hold on.
I'm a little scared. I don't know that I have a good side, but seeing you do that.
No good. No good. Let's see. Come on. I had it a second ago until I had to talk to Doug.
The YouTube edit will be great.
Yeah, it'll be good. You know, we fixed that. We fixed that. I don't edit.
No, I know.
Nothing gets edited.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put an E on the end of this episode, right?
When I take my shirt off in the middle of the episode, I go, yo, yo!
I'm pretty sure you're the only person who enjoys fuck more than I do as a word.
We need to be a little more real with people, you know? Like, everyone gets so offended so easily by words.
Yeah, it is an interesting time for that, for sure.
Why are you so offended by the word fuck, people?
Yeah, I mean, language is colorful, right? It's supposed to be colorful.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to convey exactly what we're thinking inside our mind's eye.
And you have to know when to use the words, right? You know, I don't walk around like, you know, when I'm going to teach, if I'm going to go do a speech in front of, you know, people I've never met before, I'm like, yo, what up, motherfuckers?
Right.
But like when I walk into my class and it's all of my students, like my advanced class that I know already and you all know who I am.
Context counts.
It matters. Like your audience matters,
Absolutely.
Right? So, man, you've been coming to Colorado for how long now?
Off and on for the last 3 years. Basically, the timing of... I've been coming to Colorado off and on since 2009, working. As it pertains to my relationship with you and jiu-jitsu, it's been for the last 3 years or so, since I started training.
Yeah. And you're a great student. I'm a fan.
Thanks.
You know?
Thanks. I'm a fan of yours as well.
And I did you turned me on to Paul Kinsey, who, man, we had a great lunch yesterday, by the way.
I heard.
Like, he was
I had
man.
second lunch with Paul after.
All right.
He had an acai bowl.
Stoked. I was stoked. I was like, God damn. Like, all right. You know, and I was there to help him, and he asked for me to help him, and I think he helped me more than I helped him. He's a boss.
He's that type of guy.
Yeah.
Paul really has a great mind for seeing different angles and aspects of particularly business and more recently the jiu-jitsu business that I think could be beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so, you know, because there's more to this than just the arm bars and the chokes. Oh, God damn it. Sorry, YouTube.
Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, man, sorry, YouTube.
I'm pretty sure Rogan had some episodes where his cameras fell over too.
Just fall over these goddamn cameras. That was a nice nod, bud. Thanks, I
appreciate
appreciate it. You're the nodder on this episode, okay?
Give you the non-verbal clue. What's going on?
Yeah, your camera up there. You know what's fucked up is, like, I was getting my parents out of the house today, and, you know, like, getting to the airport. My parents are like 70 now almost, so it's not like the easiest thing. Like, I gotta carry their suitcases, yada yada for them. But I have an actual fucking tripod that I bought. You know, but I left it on the desk. So
sure, of course.
We're running this fucking old
the B
school.
team.
Yeah,
that's all right.
All right, so back to it. So and then you got me introduced to Paul. Paul and I did an episode, which I fucked up. So we did another episode, and then he was like, "Bro, have you talked to Leslie?" And I was like, "Yeah, all the time when he comes in." He's like, "No. You talked to Leslie?" And I was like, "No, I guess not." He goes, "I'm not saying anything. You have to have Leslie on your podcast."
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, that sets a very lofty bar.
I've been excited for this, bro, because we've been postponing and
my schedule went back. Your schedule went back. 2 flights have been purchased to make this happen.
Right? Well, that's on you, man. Because I would have done over Skype, right? I would have done over Skype, and you're like, no, I'm coming in person.
It's not the same over Skype. Shout out to Kenny, Florian, Professor Florian, and everybody else. This is different when we're in the same room.
I like it in person better too. You know, you feel the vibe.
Yeah. It's a great excuse to come train too.
All right. I'm not Joe Rogan yet, you know, so I can't fly everybody in to do my podcast.
Rogan wasn't Rogan until he was Rogan.
It's amazing what he's done.
He's changed the generation of men.
Yeah, it's amazing what he's done. And I don't even know if I agree with him on like everything, but I like that.
Yeah.
Right? I like that we don't agree. For some reason, in today's age, and we'll get back to you again in a second, I guess, is we think that like you have to like agree with everything a person says.
No.
And then you're like, well, they said this thing over here, so that means they're a piece of shit. And you're like, that might be this part of them that I don't like. but this stuff over here is pretty solid.
Yeah. If I'm your mirror,
right,
then I add no value. Right. I only add value to you if I challenge the way you think and feel. And so, Rogan has done a great job in realigning the way that I think particularly men feel about themselves, their relationships, their place in the world.
Because we have a man problem right now, right?
We definitely have a man problem, and you and I are both fathers of young boys, and my oldest son is 18 and he's in college now, and so my challenges with him are different than, for instance, yours. But my sole purpose is trying to help them become good, solid men, because we have a problem in terms of the way that men are currently choosing not only to define one another, but to define themselves.
Yeah, it's tough, But I think Rogan has done a good job of pushing that on people, hey, these are men.
Yeah.
And some men are like this, and then there's others that are like this. Like, there's fucking cowboy, and then there's this fucking nerd, Jordan Peterson.
Right.
Right? Who and Jordan Peterson is my
yeah.
God damn it, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Because there's some stuff like his 12 rules for life, the actual rules are gold.
Yes.
Gold.
Yeah, great.
They're gold.
Great.
Now how he goes about chaos and femininity, and sometimes I'm like,
it's a little problematic.
Yeah, it's like, why'd you say that, man?
But again, when you take a mind like that, there is a very thin line between genius and insanity, right? And some of the most creative, artistic people can also be some of the most challenging people in terms of interpersonal relationships. So,
right.
You have to take a piece away from each person. Rogan does a good job of giving you a broad spectrum, not to take away from yourself, but I think what you do here at your academy with your students on a nightly basis. I've been in your class. One of the reasons, when I came to your class, I didn't not come to your class anymore. Right. My schedule completely changed.
Thanks, man.
And that's because you're doing the same thing. You're just not doing it to that scale.
I'm not Rogan yet. Yeah, right. I'm not Rogan yet.
Right. And like I said earlier, neither was he until he was.
Right.
I see the way you are with your students. I see the way you're vulnerable with them. I see the way you show the stuff that would be very easy for you not to show. You're not afraid of talking about your mistakes and your flaws and the fact that you're in therapy alongside your wife, and that shit counts to impressionable young men, because you've got a lot of young students in here, guys in their 20s that are at that period in their life where this might be the thing that keeps them from the bars and all the fuckery that you can easily fall into when you're that age.
It's just so easy to go down that rabbit hole of because your ego gets in the way, and then your ego gets crushed.
Right.
And I think what helped me really do it was I read this book called The Untethered Soul, and it summed it up so well. A lot of what we do is the way the author talked about it, he's you take a thorn, a little thorn, a little stick, and just put it in the top of your skin. And rather than if that happened to you, it doesn't hurt at all right now, right? What would you do? You just go bloop, and you're fine. But instead, with ourselves, we build up a protector. It's nothing. If you actually deal with this thing, it's fucking nothing, right? But no. We build up a protector, and then a protector on top of the protector, and the next thing you know, you have this shield of cast iron around something that if you just
dealt with it,
would have dealt with it in the beginning, and now you just all your whole life is set up around protecting this little fucking thing that was nothing, and you crumble because of that.
The growth is in being uncomfortable,
yeah.
Right? We all have lacrosse balls now, right? And when you've got that lacrosse ball after training and you're smashing it in your subscaps or you're rolling it, when you hit that trigger point, when you hit that knot that's in your rhomboid or something, you don't gloss past it and go on to the next.
You want to
desperately. Yes, absolutely. You desperately want to. You would give anything to avoid that spot. But the growth is putting that ball on that spot.
Yeah. And
staying there until their spot is gone.
But it's so easy to do with physical pain.
Yes.
Right? With physical pain, okay, just do this. Do this and it will get better. the hard stuff is your heart.
Absolutely.
I'm reading Brene Brown's book right now, Dare to Lead. Have you read it?
No.
I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. I fucking love her. I have 2 goals. I want Rogan and I want Brene Brown. You know, right now, those are my 2 goals. And how to hit the New York Times bestseller list. But that one's hard. That one's really hard. That one's really tough. So I'm going to start with the Amazon bestseller. But in her book, she says our most vulnerable emotion is joy. And she gives this example, and I don't know, you tell me if you've done it, because I know I've done it. Your kids are asleep, and you just walk into the room before you go to sleep to check on them.
Yeah.
And you just feel overwhelmed with happiness and like, oh my, and love and everything. Like all of the positive emotions summed up, boom, right here. Then you immediately go, what if they die? What if they get sick?
Oh, that's interesting.
What if, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're so scared of that vulnerability, right? Like, oh God, is he breathing? And you like check to see if they're breathing, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. The rise and the fall of the chest.
Like she's like something like 90% of parents describe this.
Yeah.
And it's so true. We're so scared, we're almost so scared to be happy, because like if you're happy, it's gonna crumble.
Yeah. And you know, there is sort of a bit of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. And also as it relates to parenting, that you understand where helicopter parenting and overprotectiveness, where it comes from a good place.
Because you want them to be okay.
Correct. It's the same as sports parenting, right? You know, we're both sports parents, and you see these parents, and sometimes the behavior is abhorrent, but on some fundamental level, you understand where it comes from.
Because you want to do it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
You know, you want to do it too, and you're just like, God damn, I could solve all of his problems right now.
Yeah. To your earlier point, yes, the emotional stuff is by far and away the hard. I've spent the second half of my life just working on that because I was a disaster.
How are you? What happened? What's going on?
So I grew up outside of New Orleans. It was just, you know, normal. Yeah.
I can't believe you say New Orleans.
People don't believe that I'm even from there.
Right?
Everybody assumes, in part because I can be a little bit of a dick, and I don't carry around. I don't sound like the water boy.
Not at all.
That I'm not from there, but yeah.
So I have a friend from New Orleans, and he says New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then I went down there.
Yeah.
And
New Orleans.
Yeah. I was like, all right, New Orleans.
It's, you know, it comes with the place. I can slip into it if I really wanted to.
Gotcha.
And everything was pretty normal. You know, parents were married, and then when I was 3, my mom remarried. So I was born LaRose.
What's that mean?
That was my last name. Okay. I was born LaRose. I was Timothy Michael LaRose.
Okay.
My mom gets divorced when I'm 3. She remarries to my stepdad, and I become LaRose Egbert. And that's how I spend the majority of my childhood. And
you're neither one of them right now.
I'm neither one of them right now.
Oh shit! What time is it? Oh, it's 9:57. I have an appointment at noon.
I'm neither one of those right now. My mom remarries, and until I'm about 7, I go visit in the summers in Arizona my dad. My mom's husband when I was born.
Okay. All right, we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, we got work to do. We got work to do.
This is not a straight line between A and B.
Okay, so we have your so-called birth father that you think, but we know that's not true. But
right.
We'll get
Clearly,
there.
Foreshadowing.
Okay. And then we have your mom's new husband.
Correct.
Egbert.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I'm going in the summers out to see my dad and
Rose.
Yes.
Okay.
And about the time I'm 7, that stops.
You stop
abruptly, inexplicably. And not only that, but there's no more communication. And because I try to think back to why they might have chosen to go about it this way, my mom and my stepfather. They decided that the easiest emotional position to take would be that my father had remarried, he had a new family, and thus I was sort of getting boxed out.
And you're the only one. There's no brother or sister along with that?
No, my stepfather and my mom had my brother at that point.
Okay.
Theirs together.
So you two stop. Oh, okay. So that's theirs.
That's theirs.
So he is your brother is his full child.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm being told that my father no longer wants anything to do with me.
What about your brother?
That's my stepfather's son. So, right? So I'm an only child. My mom remarries my stepfather, and shortly thereafter, they have my brother. So my brother is my half brother.
Right.
Same mom. Right?
To the LaRose guy.
No.
To the Egbert. Okay, got it.
And I don't handle it well because I'm 7, and I'm now being told that my dad doesn't want anything to do with me. So I start acting out, and I very quickly end up in therapy as a 3rd grader, looking at Rorschach tests and all the things they try to do to unpack childhood trauma. So that's how I lived my entire teenage years.
In therapy.
And
angry,
upset,
right?
angry. Yeah, I don't understand.
Drugs or no? A lot
I started drinking when I was probably a sophomore in high school. That was in part because my mom got sick when I was about 8, around the same time that everything was falling apart with LaRose. My mom got sick with MS, and she was always sick. When I was in 5th grade, we had a full hospital bed in our living room that she was confined to.
So you're not old. You're not even a teenager. 5th grade.
No. Yeah,
my kid's 9. So
yeah.
You're
All
11.
this is going on. It's very formative years.
Yeah, you're 11 years old.
Yeah. And then, foreclosure comes. We have to leave New Orleans. The medical bills are piling up. We flee like a lot of outlaws do to Florida. And we end up in Tampa. And my mom's doing better, but then she starts drinking. And
that goes well with MS, I take
it.
It
goes great with prescription medication of all kinds. Yeah, it was, and it became just a horror show. And when I was 15, she took off in the middle of the night with somebody she met in rehab. And I was told this information by my AP chemistry professor in high school. He pulled me out of class. It was no great secret in my high school that there was a lot going on in my house.
Is she still with Egbert at this time?
Yeah, she was. And so now my stepdad is,
what the fuck?
Yeah, and I couldn't even, being who I am now, a father, a husband, I didn't see it at the time because I was a kid and I'm dealing with my own stuff. But what he must have been dealing with, because there's me, and I'm the stepkid, so that relationship is already weird.
Sure. You came into this situation.
Yeah. He's got my brother. He's got my brother and my sister who would come along after my brother. So he's got 2 kids
He's got
of his
2
own.
full kids of his own.
Right. Okay. And then me.
You. But how long has it been now? Since 7?
Yeah, he's been around basically the whole time, right?
Like
he's been there a long time, but he wasn't the, hey, let's play catch dad.
Gotcha.
Right.
How about with your brother?
No.
Okay.
No. It just wasn't his style.
Sure.
So mom takes off, and that throws everything into chaos, and I really deep dive into booze as a high schooler. And I don't see my mom again from the time I'm 15 until I'm 24.
So 10 years.
Yeah. My stepdad, we get through high school scratching. I was a 4.0 student, but if you look at my GPA as a line graph, it definitely was on a downward trend as I was approaching graduation.
Okay.
I wasn't taking anything seriously. I was really just mad. When I'm 18, I graduate high school. My stepdad moves with my brother and sister, and I'm on my own. They leave and go to Louisville. My stepdad is going to remarry some woman that he's met on AOL or something, just,
Dial-up messenger.
Yeah, like AOL chat.
You remember that chat that used to be over there? Oh,
I mean,
yeah, I used to try to pick up chicks all the fucking time on that.
Without going into all the gory details, I'm pretty sure their wedding photos included armor and chainmail. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So they're really getting after it. Around that time, the guy that my mom had left with beats the shit out of her and leaves her for dead.
But you have not talked to her?
I haven't spoken to her. I find out because her brother, my uncle, shows up out of nowhere to tell me that this has happened. At that time, I'm now 18. he discloses to me that my father, LaRose, was never my father. That apparently what had happened was my LaRose remarried at some point after divorcing my mom. He and his then second wife are trying to have kids, and they're having a difficult time. So the wife goes to the OB and says, hey, I need to be tested, whatever the process is for women, because I'm having difficulty getting pregnant.
This is in Arizona.
This is in Arizona. And the OB says, you're fine. Nothing wrong. You should have your husband go to the urologist. And she says, well, that won't be necessary.
He has a kid.
He has a kid. Right. So now he's, right. Yeah. So he goes to
even his second wife thought you were his kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, he's just I
I
couldn't even imagine.
He's along for the ride.
I couldn't even imagine.
Okay.
So
this is
yeah,
great.
he goes to the urologist and finds out he's sterile, and that the reason that the visits had stopped 10 years prior, the reason that I had stopped going to Arizona, the reason that the communication had been broken off was because he found out he was sterile, and I'm not his kid.
Oh shit! So he thought you were his kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't know this.
No. My mom cheated, got pregnant.
Shut the fuck up and was like, had a kid.
Yeah, and then just quietly had this kid and passed it off as her husband's.
And now he's in Arizona trying to fucking blah 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 with somebody else.
Right, and it's not happening.
And now he's fucking Oh shit.
And
okay.
the timing of that is like the timing between their divorce and him apparently finding out was like I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, you could use the dad still.
I could have used the dad. So now I'm 18 and I'm dealing with
he's
this.
just so mad at your mom that he
Yeah.
won't fucking have anything to do with you.
Yeah. Now that said, we occasionally write now.
Now.
As adults, he reached out and I reached out, and we, we're not friendly. We don't talk. But I needed him to know that I understood, that I was trying to understand.
Right.
That he didn't do anything wrong and I didn't do anything wrong. We both found ourselves in this situation. Yeah.
Right.
So at 18, I'm now carrying just my stepfather's last name. They dropped the LaRose.
So you're Egbert.
I'm just Egbert.
Tim Egbert. Okay.
My third legal last name at this point, right? Like people that are in and out of my
So
life.
you've been LaRose.
I was born LaRose. I was LaRose Egbert. Now I'm
you're
just Egbert.
Right.
And I mean, I'm a mess. I'm a mess because now everything I've been told has been a lie. I don't have a sense
You
of
have no
self.
identity.
Yeah, I have no identity.
You don't even know where to start with it.
That's exactly right. And that same year, my stepfather kicks my brother out.
Okay, his
His
child.
son.
Okay.
I'm 18, approaching 19. My brother is 13, approaching 14. And he
Sick.
Yeah, he calls me.
And what was your brother doing to get kicked out?
Whatever 13-year-olds do when they've been uprooted and forced into their stepfather marrying some woman from the internet. Like he was probably there was a lot of like, this is fucking bananas. Like what the fuck? Like,
whatever 13-year-olds do when they find when they've been forced into their stepfather marrying some woman from the internet.
Yeah.
Fuck
right.
yeah.
So my stepdad calls me and he says,
that's the line of the podcast.
That's the episode title. He calls me and he says, hey, I can't handle your brother anymore. I'm sending him to you.
And you're 18.
I'm 18. I'm in my college apartment.
Right.
I had literally I think my apartment had been broken into the week before, like my student apartment.
Where are you?
In Tampa, at University of South Florida. So, I mean, no shit, within days, I'm at TIA in Tampa. Old school, pre 9/11, right? You could walk all the way to the gate, and I'm watching. Yeah. For you kids out there, you used to be able to walk to the gate without a boarding pass.
Yeah, my parents used to pick me up at the gate.
Yeah, they'd also put you on a plane there too. And my brother steps off, and I mean, dude, he's like going into high school. He's a freshman. So now what? Now I have to
now
go.
You're dad.
I have to go to court. I have to legally adopt my brother.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So your stepdad's like, I'm done.
Oh,
I'm fucking out.
Done. I had an attorney. I had to go in front of a judge and be like, yes, of course, officer, I know I'm 18 and my suit is ill-fitting and my nose is still running, but yeah, I can do this.
He's out.
100%. 100%. My stepdad passed.
So now it's just like take him for a little bit.
Oh, no. This wasn't like a weekend, go visit your brother and see how shit is and then come back and get your shit together.
Not even a month of go visit your brother. This is forever.
My brother never saw his father again.
Word.
Yeah. My stepfather died, my stepfather died 12 years later, and they never saw each other again.
You go to the funeral?
No.
Did you?
No. There was no funeral.
Okay.
No.
How about his daughter?
My sister, she was there through all that. She stuck through.
With him?
With him. And she... I slow up a little bit about my sister because she's the only one that's alive.
Okay.
So, you know.
Got it. So it's her life too.
Yeah.
Got it.
I couldn't imagine what it was like for her to still be in that situation.
Right.
I was with my brother.
She's the youngest,
we were
right?
together. She's the youngest.
How much younger?
She's a year. They're like Irish twins, my brother and sister. She's like 18 months younger than him, so like 6 years younger than me.
Okay. So she's 12, you're 18.
Yeah. And when my mom left, she was really young. She was like 8.
8.
Yeah.
Right around the same time your stepdad or dad left, or LaRose left you. Got it.
Long story short, my stepfather breaks up with his internet wife. My sister decides she's going to stay with her. My stepdad just goes into the wind until he passes.
Okay.
My sister, she got pregnant in high school. She was dealing with her own trauma in her own way.
Right.
She had a couple of kids, and now she's good. They're good. But yeah, a mess. So I've got my brother, and I buy a house. Like I'm like, all right, I'm just going to be super responsible. I'm 19 and I buy a house.
How the fuck did you do that?
With a lot of help from a realtor, and Florida real estate at the time was very inexpensive. My first house, I think, was like $79,000.
Fuck yeah.
So it was less than
year?
my rent. I was 19, so this is 1997.
Okay.
1997.
So fuck yeah, $79,000?
Yeah, it was great.
You don't have to put anything down?
No.
Yeah, fuck yeah. What's that?
That's nothing. I think my mortgage was like $600.
$600, yeah, right?
Yeah, it was peanuts. Less than my rent was,
yeah,
for sure.
for sure. There you go.
I
mean, that kind of makes sense.
I decide that I can't carry the baggage of my stepfather on. I couldn't carry my stepfather's last name anymore. So I needed a fresh start. I needed to do my own shit. So I took my uncle was my grandfather's only son.
Who's?
My mom's brother.
Your mom's brother.
My mom's brother.
Okay.
Because I don't know who my dad is. To this day, now that my mom has passed, I'll never know who my father is.
Right.
That shit she took to the grave. And honestly, I don't even know if she knew for sure.
Right.
But my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, only had one son who had no kids. So I decided to take his last name, and I became Leslie when I was around 19.
Okay.
So that's how we
got to
That's
Leslie.
how we get through all my last name iterations.
I think, you know what? I think Paul told me this. He's like, he's had 4 last names, and I was like, fuck yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah, it's certainly, again, it's a circuitous path. We get my brother in the Navy. He does well. I meet my now wife, and we start having kids pretty quickly. We started dating in February, and we're pregnant in April. Because again,
shit.
Yeah, no male guidance, right?
Right.
To you fathers out there with sons, this is what happens when you don't talk to them about sex.
Right.
Like,
look, I've got my rules for my kids now.
They'll be different. They'll be different.
My friend has this really, it's so easy and good. If your dick comes out of your pants and it's not your hand on it, there better be a condom on it.
Shout out to who that, I love that guy.
Nick Gamis,
yeah, shout out to Gamis. I love Gamis.
That was his rule, man.
Bro,
that was his
kid
rule.
is wise beyond his years.
Fuck, man, but you have to, Yeah, because your dick just gets you in trouble.
So now
You're pregnant.
I'm
How old are you?
I'm 21.
You still have your stepbrother or no?
My brother is
in the Navy. Sorry,
in the Navy, out, sailing the seven seas, seeing the world. And start having kids. And that's great. Like, I'd already had my brother. My brother had been with me at that point for 5 years. So that part of it wasn't a concern. What was manifesting, though, was all of my damage, right? Because I wasn't really dealing with that. I was too busy spinning all these plates, juggling all this responsibility.
But you had to become a dad, and you're still kind of 19. It's real, you don't even know what to deal with at 19.
And it's difficult because you're also a brother,
right?
And you're not prepared for what that looks like to try to be both things to one person. And
let's be honest, you're 19. You're still trying to get laid.
Yeah. Yes. Most definitely.
I'm 38 and still trying to get laid.
My brother would tell the story. My brother, when he was still alive, my brother has passed. When he was still alive, he would tell the story of stepping over people on his way to get out of the house to go to high school.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, in retrospect, maybe not the best example, right, for someone who's supposed to be in a position of responsibility, but we're all just trying to battle through.
You're fucking 19 years old.
Right. You don't cut yourself that slack, though, in the moment, right? That's wisdom.
It's hard, right?
Very hard.
Like my dad has a sister who has passed, and, he didn't have the greatest upbringing, like my dad, and she had her struggles, my aunt, she was, she got addicted to drugs, and a kid, my grandfather thought he was taking my aunt to the hospital for appendicitis, and she popped that child.
Oh, wow.
So and that child had spina bifida, never walks, the child died. So she had some issues, but my dad was the one who basically raised her. And my dad holds a lot of guilt for probably his nephew, my cousin, probably for her dying, but it's like, man, you're trying to, you don't know anything. You're trying to cut yourself. Like he's the one who took her to school every day on the first day of school every year.
Right.
So that's tough, man.
It is. I was not a great brother to my brother. I didn't know how to be. It's our relationship was, we loved each other for sure. And I think about him a lot. And I just wish we had the opportunity to just be brothers.
Right.
Shit was so crazy for so long.
Can I ask, how did he die?
He was suicide.
Okay.
In 2012. And it was interesting because he was dealing with what appeared to be the early onset of schizophrenia. They say that that's about the right age. He was in his late 20s.
Right.
His behavior had gotten erratic. There was an attempt in 2011, and not like I'm just gonna run a razor blade across my, this was like he was going for it. And he battled through that, but I don't think he expected to make it. And the reality of coming out of that on the other side and having to deal with the fallout of that first attempt, I think was too much for him to bear. So yeah, he was suicide in 2012, and it was tough because, my thing now is men guiding one another to be not only good men, but to be good friends and good brothers and good fathers and good spouses, because I didn't get any of that. I didn't have someone who was not just telling you when you're fucking up, but saying, hey, maybe you should consider this, or hey, try to look at it from this angle. Someone to pick you up and brush you off. And when you don't have that, people talk about the prison population as it pertains to particularly, minority communities. And I'm just one white guy from the suburbs outside of New Orleans, and it was incredibly difficult. But because I was white, because I was in the burbs, it wasn't nearly as hard as it could have been. So as I look at a generation of young men in the inner city who are going through a lot of what I was going through, but also with all the other disadvantages that they have to deal with.
There was no possibility of a 4.0 for them.
That's right. That's right. And we wonder why people are dealing with the things that they're having to deal with. Because it's very easy to say, pull yourself up. It's a lot harder to just do it because you don't know where to start. People who tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, on some level, they themselves possess the tools by which they understand how you could do that. On the other end of that conversation,
there's no such thing as pull yourself up from your
No. It's a complete myth, and you and I have discussed this before.
Yeah,
this is a myth.
Exist.
It doesn't.
If you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, somebody showed you how.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's why they're telling you to do it, is because they know what they were told.
They got there somehow.
But when you're on the other side, you don't even know what that means. You don't know what that means.
You're telling a fucking bird to run.
That's right.
Why don't you go run?
That's exactly
as a
right.
bird, or why don't you go fly as a cheetah?
Right.
Right. Like, well, I don't know what's fly.
Right. For our friends in the jiu-jitsu community, it would be taking someone in on their first class and throwing them in a black belt match where all the leg locks are live, and there you go for it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, figure it out.
No tapping.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not allowed to tap.
Right. Yeah. And life doesn't let you tap either. You got to get up and
that's
keep
why I said
doing it.
Tapping, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no tapping. There's dying,
right?
And there's living and dying, right?
That's right.
Like you've got to learn how to fucking. Sometimes it's just like doggy paddle. It's just survive underneath the mount, right? Like let's learn how to just I'm taking it right now, and they don't even know what that looks like.
No,
they don't like. People, and this is like you're getting into a lot of topics here when you talk about like the minority prison population. Like that's what privilege is.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like that's and I talk about this actually in my book of because my house when we were moving, from one town to another town, we were building a house and we show up one day and the house is spray painted with swastikas and Niger because they spelled the word wrong.
Right.
Because
of course they did. Right.
Literally they spelled the word wrong. And my dad is unfazed. My mom is furious. My dad's black. My mom's white.
Sure.
My dad's used to this.
Yeah.
My dad knows what this is like.
Right.
But because of my mom's privilege, she's the daughter of concentration camp surviving Jews.
Right.
But you can't see that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't look up. You can't go. Oh yeah, your parents were in the concentration.
Right.
So just that is what privilege is, and people get so fucking mad. I wasn't privileged, man.
Right.
Don't fucking talk to me about privilege. You don't. When you say that, you don't even understand your privilege.
That's right. Yeah, you're unaware.
Yeah.
The thing about identity or lack of identity is, your name, your family, it tethers you to people. It tethers you to a legacy. When you strip that away, whether it's because your parents took off, they got divorced, your dad's in jail, whatever that is, you have to sort of find it on your own. You have to carve out what that means for yourself.
And so this is where I kind of get intertwine them a little bit. I do believe everyone has the ability to do that.
Yes.
I think we all can be great. Every single one of us can be great, but it takes something. It takes it's when I say I'm blessed, because I believe I'm blessed and I'm blessed by the universe, it's not with money and it's not with anything else. It's just with opportunity. It's with opportunity, to have met you, who introduced me to Paul, and now I think I'm gonna blow this new thing up, right? But it's just that opportunity, and that opportunity started with the second I came out.
Right.
Right? The second that I came out is when that opportunity started, and fuck, man, I that privilege is amazing.
Yes.
That most of the world doesn't even get to have.
That's right. And oftentimes it's said that adversity builds character. And maybe, But adversity breaks a lot of people too.
It's like slipping through the cracks when they're like that guy who ended up in jail slipped through the cracks.
Right.
No, he ended up exactly where he should be.
Yeah.
Right. Like he had no mom. He had no dad. He's got a drug addict mom who's fucking out sucking cock on the streets to not to feed him, to get crack. Right. The person that slipped through the cracks is the person that ended up in Harvard.
Right. The person who went through all the same things and came out the other side.
Yeah. That person slipped through the cracks.
That's the exception.
Those people
are the rule.
That's
right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And people say it the wrong way.
Right.
It's the fucking wrong way, you know? Like, you slip through the cracks when you don't end up where all the stats say you should.
I'm incredibly grateful. To your point about blessing, I'm incredibly grateful because I shouldn't be where I am. I'm very lucky.
You slipped through the cracks.
I'm very lucky. I'm the exception. I'm not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I through a lot of help, a lot of patience. I was my 20s were difficult for everyone around me. My wife, my oldest son. I wasn't a bad dad, but I wasn't a fully present dad either. We joke about it now. Our relationship is great. But he didn't get the best version of me.
Right.
In part because I was 22 when he was born, but in part because I hadn't really dealt with my shit. And so there's no way for that not to impact him. And as I've gotten older and I've dealt with my shit, I've gotten better for the people around me. And so, you know, that takes time and effort and energy. It's not something you're just going to wake up and be over. You can't tell someone, get over it, because they can pretend it's not there, but that's not healthy. Because the way it shows
that's going to manifest itself. That's get over it, and then they do is
that's not flicking the thorn. Yeah, that's exactly right. You know? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
So whether it was self-medicating, whether it was distracting myself, whether it was blowing my personal relationships up. You know, when you are terrified of the people that you care about rejecting you, you generally reject everyone before they can do it to you. Right. That's the defense mechanism.
Not let anybody not reject you.
Yeah. The people that were supposed to always have my back.
Right.
And you can't just unburden yourself with that shit very easily. And it was very tough. It was very tough on the people around me, and I'm incredibly grateful to all of those people, many of whom are still in my life, that they saw enough, that they saw me working, they saw me grinding, trying to figure it out, that they thought that I was worth, you know, sticking around for.
And again, I think this is where people are gonna get upset, you know, with C-Man, but you were trying. These other people over here, they're not trying. And that's why, fuck them.
Yeah, it's easy to say. It's callous.
You know?
It's easy to say.
Easy to say, right? That's the easy road.
I had to decide, you know, you and I have discussed your rules, and I know you've discussed them on the podcast before. I think there's such tremendous value there for guys, you know, and I'm sure for women as well, but I don't know what it's like.
We're guys and we're raising boys.
That's right. So to the women that are listening, I apologize.
Yeah, me too, right? Me too. I don't know how to say it.
I'm not trying to ignore them.
Right,
I'm just simply, I can't relate.
I can't relate, right? Like,
it would be condescending of me to tell women what their experience is like. I can't
tell you what pregnancy is like.
That's exactly right.
Right? Like, and I hope my rules work for you too.
Right. And there's something in there, but more than the rules specifically, the idea of having a code, the idea of having a personal ethic, that's what's important. For me, it's be reliable, be accountable, be funny, and be kind. That's it. Start there. I don't always get it right. My friends will tell you, ask my wife, ask my kids. I don't always get it right, but if I can start there, there's something.
Everyone needs God. I can't buy into God of these books.
Sure.
You know, I can't. I don't know if you can or not, you know?
The omnipotent being that sits on high?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I can't buy into that God, you know? But I love the idea
Sure.
Because he's got rules.
Yeah.
I don't like his rules. I think his rules, you pick and choose his rules. I think they suck, some of them. And these aren't my rules. These are just a God. These are a God for me to look at, like a code,
right,
and say, okay, Eliot, point to that. Are you doing jiu-jitsu? Are you swimming? You know, not swimming. Are you staying alive?
Right.
Are you treading? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yes. It's not about the
It's
swim.
not about fucking swimming.
Right. It's not about the swim. The swim
You know?
is something bigger.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you need to learn how to swim. It's the #1 cause of death for children under 2.
Right.
Okay? But there's something more to this.
It's existential.
Yes.
That's hard to communicate to your 5-year-old.
Yes.
Right.
Do you look people in the eye when you talk to them? Right? And you make them respect you. That's what makes them respect you. Not in how you talk or any of that. That is this
Sure.
eye contact thing, right? It's very important. Nobody does it. People don't do it anymore. And it's what my parents instilled in me that really helped me, you know? Are you doing hard shit? If you are scared, you know?
Better do it.
Better do it, man. You know? People don't like to talk about money. You better fucking be able to fucking handle it. It will ruin you if you can't.
It will.
It will ruin you. It can ruin your fucking life in many ways.
And to your earlier point about the thorn, that more than a lot of things is something that people throw sand on, cover up,
Yeah.
ignore,
Mm-hmm.
take an ostrich position, right, head in the sand. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know, and you gotta ride or die, man.
You know, that's interesting. You know, the DBAB thing and the evolution of the DBAB thing has been, I think, has been fun to watch from when you first started it to what it's ultimately manifested itself into. And, you know, the idea of a God, we're all just walking around in a social contract. Why aren't people just walking around punching each other? Or why does anybody... I don't stop at the red light because I'm scared of a ticket. We stop at the red light because we've all agreed
Right.
that that's what the fuck we do.
Right, because
Right?
most likely you're not going to get a ticket.
That's right. The probability is I'm not going to get a ticket. So why am I not just blowing through every light playing the percentages?
Right.
It's because we're part of this larger thing that we're all trying to get by. We're all trying to help one another out, hopefully. And that's what we've agreed to. And that idea of God, not as a rule setter that's going to slap us on the wrist, but as this overarching idea that we're all in this communal experience, and these are the tenets by which we've agreed to help each other get through it with the least amount of damage possible. You know, you were talking earlier about the physical pain and the emotional pain. That, I think, people don't often allow each other to talk about those things. I was listening, I think the episode of your podcast that really, ironically enough, gave me the most pause afterwards was Blades. Now, in the pantheon of the people that you've interviewed and the conversations you've had, it doesn't immediately jump to mind.
No.
But here's why it resonated with me. Because Curtis is a marvel of an athlete, right? Top of his game.
If you watched him train, you would even...
I've seen his jiu-jitsu. I was trying to be complimentary.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. But that's how athletic he is when you say.
Yeah, absolutely,
that, you know?
absolutely. But this is a guy who, dude, people watch him on pay-per-view, and I think sometimes because of that, particularly for young men, there's this idea of invincibility or invulnerability. And for you to have him on and have a candid conversation about his personal life, and for Curtis to allow himself to be vulnerable enough to
not
discuss,
hang up, right?
To discuss his personal shortcomings, to say this is the shit that's causing me trouble right now, without fear of judgment, without fear of reprisal, without fear of clapback in the comments section of his Instagram feed, is incredibly impressive, not only of yourself, for creating an area where those conversations can be had, but for him, for allowing himself to have it. Because we're not, again, to circle back, we're not taught as men how to do those things.
Be stoic for what people think stoic is. People don't understand that.
Stoic, they think, means shove it down.
Yeah. Don't show
That's how
it.
our grandfathers handled coming home from the war, and
Right.
and that oftentimes didn't work out.
No,
well.
it didn't work out. Look, alcohol, drugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like fatherless children.
Absolutely.
Where do we think fatherless children started?
That's right.
Right? Like,
That's right.
like they were there.
Yeah.
They were like in the house, but they didn't have a fucking dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's I hate fighting. I hate fighting. I think it ruins people. And my job as a coach is to prepare these guys for fights. But I also am on the other side of that.
Sure.
So
well, you know that there's life at the end of that athletic tunnel as well, and that's very important.
And it crushes people.
It does.
It crushes people. Like all you see from most of these guys that are pro athletes. And look, man, it's nice to see like the Peyton Mannings on TV, and like even someone like Randy Moss who's on TV now. Who like was a fucking mess in his career,
right?
Like personally.
Sure.
Like this is nice. But how many of these guys, like, do you see on TV?
Handful.
A handful. They're like the handful that still have money.
Yeah.
They're the handful that are doing okay, right? Like, it's not a nice gig.
No.
And
it's
a rough fall.
And
I wasn't famous.
No disrespect, but we saw there was a fight a couple of weekends ago of a couple of much older guys, some real legends of the game, and I think for at least one of those guys. It's exactly what you're talking about. There was no exit strategy. There was no plan
Oh,
B.
hold on. There was an exit strategy. You know what the exit strategy was? Dana White. Dana White paid Chuck for a long time.
Sure.
And then WME bought the UFC.
And that went away.
And then that went away.
Right. But relying on your friends, right, to prop you up isn't really a strategy.
Right.
You can hope for that.
It doesn't work.
Right.
It didn't work, obviously, right?
Right.
Like, it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Chuck Liddell does not deserve to be seen like that, moving like that.
Guys should be able to go out on their own terms. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
Uh-huh.
That said, it didn't feel like he was there on his own terms.
No.
It didn't feel like that.
No one would do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you watch video, you know what you look like. Like this is not you. Right? This is not you going out because like you want I don't know what that was. Like I don't know how the boxing commission allowed that. Like I don't from a lot like I used to like De La Hoya. I fucking hate De La Hoya now because he just made money off of that.
It felt a little gross.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, it felt
that
gross.
was disgusting.
It felt like
no
taking
disrespect
advantage of
to Chuck.
legends. No, of course not.
No disrespect to Chuck. He can't help where he is physically as a human being, right? Like he gave his heart and soul to this sport.
And when you're listless as a man, you're going to revert to your base instincts.
This is what he knows.
Yeah. You have done a great job, for those who don't know, of creating a life for yourself outside of fighting once it was over.
I love my children, my wife, and my students.
Yeah. You've done a great job. And so, you look at Schaub, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Schaub's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was born from a very, very, very... You want to talk about men having
Tough
a very difficult conversation?
Look, man, Joe Rogan made his friends. Let's just be clear.
Yeah. That said, they were intelligent enough to listen to their friend's advice. And he felt comfortable in their relationship to have it with him.
Joe Rogan's just very good at the conversation. He's very good at having a tough conversation with people. He's very, very good at it.
You have to make yourself battle tested. You have to be hard in your mind and in your body, and then you have to be soft in your heart, and that's hard. For me, it was I
heard a good line. Brene Brown said it in her book: "Hard back, soft front."
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I was hard. I was all hard. I was hard inside.
Me too.
I was. Again, shout out to my wife. I was not warm and fuzzy. I wasn't, and there's part of me still that isn't, and I have to actively campaign against that. But in terms of physicality and mentality, I won't break. I'm unbreakable mentally. Whether it was deciding to run a marathon from off the couch, and then from that parlaying that into running an ultra marathon in the woods where I lost 8 toenails, to deciding in my late 30s I was going to pick up jiu-jitsu and then work at it relentlessly, despite almost losing an eye and everything else. You have to prep yourself for real adversity, because that shit is coming. If you haven't found it yet, it's there.
It doesn't
it's
matter.
lying in wait.
It doesn't matter if you found it. It's coming for you.
Definitely.
Hell, and I say it all the time on the podcast, hell comes for us in our life. I have no clue what happens to you afterwards. Like, I don't know what burning for eternity looks like. No one does.
Right.
No one has ever experienced it. Right? I don't want to fucking talk about it. Because is there an afterlife? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't fucking know. There's no evidence.
But I know this exists.
But I know this exists. That's and right. I know what the fucking claws of the devil feel like. Okay. And you have to, it's why you have to practice it. You have to practice the claws of the devil. Like somebody hit me up, I don't know, I put an Instagram post up the other day, 2 weeks ago, and I was like practicing for hell or something, after training, I was like, are you practicing? And he's like, I'm always fucking ready. He's like, he said born ready. I was like, you gotta practice that shit.
Made ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better work on your nail shit.
Practice that shit. Yeah, that's right. Because if you're not practicing it, it's gonna fuck you.
Yeah.
It's gonna get one hook in, and I'm not talking like you don't know where it's coming.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Like, if you fucking point down on your chin and I fucking punch you, you're gonna be fine. Close your eyes and just keep your eyes closed.
Yeah, you better be real good at being a nail if you ever hope to be a hammer.
Oh yeah, you got to be able to fucking suffer. I know I love my kids, and I know I have to practice nail shit every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, it's for the, I don't know, I would assume a lot of your audience is already active, but for those that aren't, if you're in your 20s, and your draw is the bar or the club, you better change that shit up real quick. Real quick. Find something that challenges you physically and mentally and dive wholeheartedly into that. One, it'll be much more rewarding.
It won't be easy.
It will not be easy.
It's not easy too, though, man. It's not easy to get up and do something productive immediately.
No, it's like anything else. It takes momentum.
So I think sometimes people get stuck in the nothing.
Yes.
They don't know how.
Right. The first step is the hardest step. People get stuck standing in place.
For me, I don't make my bed because I get up before my wife. But I get up and I meditate. I do something positive immediately. And I think that's a very important thing for people. Like, you can't get up and do nothing.
Sure.
You can't just get up, walk downstairs, and sit on the couch. No. Get up and do something positive immediately. If you're stuck, right? If you're stuck, if you don't know where to go, if you are, I don't know, if you're a mom at home, and your kids go to school, all day. If you're a dad who can't get out of his own way, if you're 20, whatever you are, I don't care, you have to do something positive immediately in your day. So it gets going.
It's a great rule for life, and you mentioned it about Peterson's book. It's the little shit. It's those little tiny things. It's the reason why when you're in the military, you got to square your bunk away and make sure your shit is good to go.
Right away.
Yeah.
You get out of the bed, you make the bed. It's only you in it, right? So you don't have the excuse of your
wife.
That's
exactly right. They got nothing. They got no fallback.
Right? They have to make their bed.
Yeah. It's not about the bed.
No, fuck
Just
the
like
bed.
It's not about the swimming.
Yes.
It's existential. It's about something bigger.
And
that something bigger is productivity.
Right away. Yeah. Immediately. Because once you go down the path of improductivity, of being not unproductive, it's just so easy. Yeah. We're humans.
Again, that shit gathers momentum too.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Negative behavior. Nobody wakes up one day like drinking a fifth of scotch in the mornings.
No, you'll die.
You slide into that shit, right? You slide into that.
Yeah.
The negative habits work the same way as the positive habits. And if you're out there and you're young,
easier, though.
They're much easier because oftentimes they're tied to dopamine release, right? It's much easier. Dude, everybody wants to just sit around and do nothing. Right? On some level, because that shit is easy. Mm-hmm. Doesn't require any mental energy, no physical strain whatsoever. It's hard, but it only gets harder. If you don't set a good foundation for yourself, it only gets harder.
Yeah, man. You know, you want to make your kids have a better life than you. Start them doing things that they have to do early in life. Give them things to do.
Absolutely.
You know, give them things to do. Don't do things for them, man.
Let them fail.
Let them struggle.
Yeah. Let them fail.
When they come to you for advice, you give it.
Yeah.
You know, when they're in that tough basketball game or whatever it is, look, man, they got a coach. You just sit on the sidelines. When they come to you after the game, or like, hey, Dad, this or that. Look, you're there for them. You know, they got to know that you're there for them. But fuck, man, you got to let them struggle. Yeah. You can't take them out.
No.
You know,
you can't nerf the world.
You can't take them out. You know, you got to let them sit there and do that hard shit. And the problem is that hard shit's gonna come for our kids. And what we've done as a society, I think, for our kids is, it's not their fault. You know, we took the little baby steps of hard shit away. You know, like, we didn't serve them the fucking soft baby food of hard shit, right? We just kept them, okay, I'll feed you. Like, and then all of a sudden, fuck, man, they got real hard shit to eat. They've never chewed in their life.
Right.
You know? But now they got to chew because they're out of your house and you know, like, and fuck, right? And they're coming back screaming to you like it's not fair. You're right. It ain't fucking fair, but who said what was fair?
Yeah. You know, you want to find out whether you've prepared your kids. Wait till they move out and go to college, and then come home that first time.
Yeah, I don't know. You do.
I do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Like all parenting is.
Yeah, it's the best experience because it's hard.
Oh, it's the hardest thing ever.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's the hardest thing ever because you can't do it. You can't do it for them.
It's not a human being.
You can't do it for them.
They're gonna have their own opinions and their own everything.
God damn, do they have opinions? Shit,
Yeah.
I wish sometimes they'd have less opinions.
Yeah, it'd be easier, right? It'd be easier for us. But man, fuck. Tim, thanks, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Eliot.
I think this is my favorite.
Eliot. Thanks, Professor.
Yeah, man, this is my favorite one so far. I think.
I appreciate you saying that.
Like,
I really enjoyed it. It means a lot to me that you'd have me on, particularly on the heels of Professor Florian being on. It's like you've had some serious guests. I'm just a guy.
We're all just a guy.
Yeah.
You know,
there's truth in that.
We're all just a guy. You know, people get too wrapped up in this too, right? Like I wake up and I shit just like the rest of everyone else. You know, and I know we like tooted Joe Rogan's horn. He's just a guy.
Absolutely.
He's a guy that's like figured some things out for himself and like put his fucking nose to the grindstone, and we all can do it. This might be someone's catalyst, right? Like you just, you know, and I talk about it a lot. Like I said, I want to get in front of Rogan, I want to get in front of Brene Brown, right? And I don't want to do it for money, and I don't want to do it for fame. I believe this is a very holistic message that we're talking about on the podcast.
There's value there.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I believe that what I've been blessed to struggle with and then figure out, you know, as the same as you, I believe that there's something there to it. And I was blessed with being able to talk. You know, I was blessed with being able to communicate and kind of get people to jump with me. You know, like, come on, guys, I don't have this figured out, but I'd love for you to help me, you know? And that's why, you know, like, man, I don't want the money. I don't want the fame, you know? I want 100,000 listeners on the podcast because I think it's valuable. I think
Absolutely
this is
valuable.
a tough conversation that people need to fucking have more often with themselves, you know? And then go deal with it. You know, don't scream it on social media. Stay the fuck off your social media. You know, like,
Men, stop doing it for the gram.
Yeah, man. Don't get me wrong. I love some fucking Instagram, but I don't, you know.
But you know what it's there for.
I know what it's there for.
Yeah.
You gotta know its role. So.
Thank you, Professor.
Fuck, man. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, man.
Of course,
All right,
absolutely.
Yeah.
D-Bab.
All right, baby. D-Bab all day. Stayed up. Yeah.